So we come to the next topic, subtopic of some basic concept. In this session, small session, we'll be learning how to calculate percentage composition by mass and what is the concept of molecular formula and empirical formula. So first one, mass percent composition. Molecular formula of glucose, everyone is aware. What it is? Yes, C6H12O6. Right, if you add all the mass of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, it will come out to be 180. Now in this compound, if we want to find out percentage of carbon, percentage of hydrogen and percentage of oxygen, then how to calculate? How many carbon atoms are present? 6. How many hydrogen? 12. How many oxygen? 6. What is the atomic mass of carbon? 12. Hydrogen 1. Oxygen 16. So 6 carbon with mass of 12. So what do you expect total mass to be? Yes, correct. 72. Similarly, what is the total mass of hydrogen? Yes, 12. What is the total mass of oxygen? Yes, 16 multiplied by 6, 96. So what is the mass of carbon? 72 in 180 parts of glucose. So how to calculate percentage of specific element? Mass of the atoms of those element divided by total mass, that's molecular mass, multiplied by 100. So if you check what is the percentage of carbon, percentage of carbon will be 72 divided by, yes, 180 multiplied by 100. 72 divided by 180 multiplied by 100 will give you percentage of carbon. What will be percentage of hydrogen? 12 divided by molecular mass 180 multiplied by 100 will give you percentage of hydrogen. Similarly, what is the percentage of oxygen? One method, 96 divided by 180 multiplied by 100. This is one method. There is another method also. Another method is 100 minus percentage of carbon and percentage of hydrogen, because the remaining element is oxygen. So, right, if you add percentage of carbon and hydrogen, it is 46.67. 53.33 is a percentage of oxygen. So percentage of carbon in glucose is 40%, percentage of hydrogen is 6.67, percentage of oxygen is 53.33. This is how you calculate percentage composition. I suppose this one example is enough for you to understand. Coming to the next one, molecular formula. Right, it is an exact chemical formula with exact number of atoms of each element present in a molecule. Empirical formula is simplest whole number formula. So if you see glucose, molecular formula C6H12O6, ethane C2H6, cyclopropane C3H6. So if you know carbon is 6, 12 and 6 carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So ratio is 1 is to 2 is to 1. That is empirical formula. Similarly for ethane, it is 2 is to 6, 1 is to 3. That is empirical formula. Similarly, this is CH2. So what does molecular formula give us? Molecular formula will give us exact formula. Molecular formula gives us exact formula, while empirical formula gives you simplest whole number. So exact formula is molecular formula. Its simplest ratio is empirical formula. Got it? Now observation is, if you see for glucose molecular formula is 6 times empirical formula. Similarly, ethane's molecular formula is 2 times empirical formula. Similarly, cyclopropane is 3 times that. That means some whole number multiplication of molecular formula, some whole number multiplication of empirical formula is molecular formula. Coming to the discussion, molecular formula of glucose is C6H12O6. Highest common factor is 6. If you simplify, CH2 is empirical formula, and you will find empirical formula, if you multiply by 6 times, you will get molecular formula. So molecular formula is empirical formula multiplied by n factor. Now you want to find out n factor, then you can find out n factor here. If you see acetic acid, molecular mass is 60, empirical formula is CH2, its empirical formula mass is 30. So what you are able to realize, molecular mass is double of empirical formula mass. That means n factor is 2. Just multiply n factor 2 with empirical formula, then you get this formula, that is C2H4O2. Yeah, formula is C2H4O2. Similarly, if you find out empirical formula mass is 30 and molecular mass is 180, what you will realize, it is 6 times factor. 180 is 6 times molecular, 6 times empirical formula mass. So we realize molecular formula is n times empirical formula. So we are seeing one question. What is that question? Calculate empirical formula if a compound has 40% of carbon and 6.6% of hydrogen. Now when this data is given, they are asking us to calculate empirical formula. One of the easiest method is make a table. For an MCQ purpose, you can make a rough table. Now when you get a percentage of carbon and percentage of hydrogen, add that percentage. If you add, that percentage is 46.67. Oh, it is not 100. If it is not 100, by default, the remaining element for us is oxygen. And how to find out a percentage of oxygen? Subtract 46.67 from 100, 53.33. So what is the first task that we do? We add all the percentage given and we check whether it is 100. If it is not 100, then what is the remaining element present? Yes, oxygen. What next? Atomic mass of carbon 12, atomic mass of hydrogen 1, atomic mass of oxygen 16. What is the next task that we do? We take that percentage and divide by atomic mass. Taking a percentage divided by atomic mass is atomic ratio. Taking that percentage dividing by atomic mass of that element is atomic ratio. Taking that percentage dividing by atomic mass will give you atomic ratio. So you will get 3.33, 6.67, 3.33. You can do it by normal brain work, or you can use logbook in your college exam, and you can use calculator if you want to do it faster. Okay, but in final MCQ you have to do approximation. Out of this atomic ratio, can you tell me which is the smallest number? Yes, absolutely right. 3.33 is the smallest number. We take that number and divide all ratio by the same number. So we divided by smallest atomic ratio. So 3.33 divided is by smallest 3.33. 6.67 divided by smallest 3.33. 3.33 divided by smallest. Whatever you get is called as least ratio. and taking this least ratio, you will get empirical formula. Carbon is 1, hydrogen is 2, oxygen is 1. So formula is CH2O. That is empirical formula. You understand how is the correct method that we do it for our calculation purpose? Yes, you should have understood it. What is the method that we do it? What is the first thing that we do it? We write down all the percentage. After writing all the percentage, what is the next task that we do? After writing all the percentage, we have written the percentage. After that, we add. After we add, we calculate whether it is 100. If it is not 100, remaining element is oxygen. We take each percentage, divide by atomic ratio, you get atomic ratio. Take each percentage, divide by atomic mass, atomic ratio. Take each percentage, divide by atomic mass, atomic ratio. Out of this, we find out what is the smallest. Right, 3.33 is smallest. Take that number and divide each number by the smallest number. Are you understanding it? Then whatever you get will be called as least ratio, and that will give you empirical formula. Example number 2. Now, these are the steps. Check whether sum of the percentage is 100. If the sum is not 100, then oxygen is present. And how to calculate oxygen? 100 minus sum of the percentage. Divide each percentage by atomic mass. That will give you atomic ratio. Find out which is the smallest atomic ratio and take that smallest atomic ratio and divide each ratio by the smallest atomic ratio. That will give you least ratio. Right, if in least ratio you get 4.1, it will be taken as 4. If it is 2.9, it can be taken as 3. But imagine if one is 1.5, other is 2.5, then what? 1.5 cannot be taken as 1, 1.5 cannot be taken as 2, 2.5 cannot be taken as 2, 2.5 cannot be taken as 3. What we do? We multiply this by 2. So 1.5 becomes 3, 2.5 becomes 5. You got this? So this least ratio is not close to any whole number. Then multiply by suitable integer. In this case, suitable integer was 2. So if 1.5 is there, multiply by 2, you will get 3. That will be our smallest ratio. What next? Then you get empirical formula. From empirical formula, get molecular formula. For that, calculate N by a formula molecular mass upon empirical formula mass. This is how you can get it. We'll check. Derive empirical formula of an oxide like this. So what we do? We take iron and we take oxygen. We add the percentage. Is it giving 100? Oh, yes, it is giving 100. That means no other element is present. Then atomic mass of iron 56, oxygen 16. What next? Take atomic ratio. Although it is called as dioxygen, remember it is oxygen only for us. Remember it's oxygen. Although they have given us dioxygen, remember that discussion for an element oxygen. Take this percentage, divide by atomic mass. You will get atomic ratio. Take that percentage, divide by atomic mass, you will get atomic ratio. Oh, you got 1.2 and 1.8. What next? Out of them, 1.2 is smaller. So take 1.2 divide by 1.2. Take 1.8 divide by 1.2. What is the number you will get? Oh, you got 1 and 1.5. 1.5 cannot be approximated as 1. 1.5 cannot be approximated as 2. So do you have any trick? Correct. Double it. When you double it, 1 will become 2 and 1.5 will become 3. So multiplying by 2 will give you empirical formula. Fe will be 2 and oxygen will be 3. Fe2O3. That's the formula of the compound. Correct. Coming to the next. So we have converted simplest ratio into whole numbers. What next? Example number 3, where we will calculate molecular formula. Find molecular formula of a compound which has 75.46% of carbon, 4.43% of hydrogen, and 318 gram per mole of molecular mass. What we do, we write on percentage. Percentage of carbon is how much? 75.46. Hydrogen is 4.43. Add it. How much it will be? Is it coming to 100? No. Then we have one more element. Which is that element? Oxygen. But how you got 20.10? We took 100 and we subtracted 75.46 and 4.43. Remaining percentage gave us oxygen. Then atomic mass. You get atomic ratio. You will get numbers. Okay. Not so easy, but you will get these numbers. Then, which is the smallest number out of this? 1.26. So, each atomic ratio will be divided by 1.26. When you do that, for each, you will get what? Oh, 5, 3.5 and 1. Can I take 3.5 as 3? No, scientifically incorrect. Can I take 3.5 as 4? No, scientifically incorrect. So, what to do? Then, you have to multiply by a multiplication factor 2. You will get 10, 7 and 2. So empirical formula will be C10H7O2. That is what empirical formula you will get. But the question is to calculate molecular mass, not empirical formula. So what you will do next? We continue from the previous part. Empirical formula C10H7O2. N factor has to be calculated. For that, molecular mass should be given. It was given, if you remember, 318. And if you add all the mass here, you will get empirical formula mass. And if you calculate it is 159. So 318 given in the previous numerical, 159 empirical formula mass. N factor will be 2. Once you got N factor, molecular formula is given by N factor multiplied by empirical formula. 2 multiplied by C10H7O2 will give you C20H14O4. This is how you will get molecular. So we come to a concept of atomic mass and atomic mass number. What is atomic mass number is the first question that everyone has in their mind. What is atomic mass number? It is a number. Remember, it is a number. Actually, it is a sum of number of protons and neutrons. So if you check, in case of deuterium, the mass number is 2. You are aware. What is this 1? Atomic number. What is the 2? Mass number. For tritium, what is this 3? Yeah, it is atomic mass number. Correct. That means mass number is always a whole number. If you check, carbon has 3 isotopes. So, first isotope, atomic mass number is 12. That means it has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. For next, it is 13. And you know there are 6 protons and 7 neutrons. For the next one, it is 14. And you are aware, 6 protons and 8 neutrons. Right, additional information, protons, neutrons, both lie inside the nucleus. So they are also popularly called as nucleons. What do you realize from all these things? Atomic mass number is a whole number because it is simply a sum of number of protons and neutrons. What about atomic mass? Now you are able to see there is no word number. No word number. Only the name is atomic mass. It is mass of isotope of an atom which considers the mass of all protons, all neutrons, all electrons, and even takes into account mass defect. Now this is factual data. mass of a proton is 1.007 and mass of a neutron is 1.008. Mass of electron is very small, 0005 U. U is atomic mass unit. By the way, what is mass defect? It is a loss in the mass of the nucleus, and that mass is converted to energy, and that energy is popularly called as binding energy, which keeps nucleons together. So mass destroyed and converted to energy is called as binding energy, which keeps protons and neutrons together. So we'll try to calculate exact mass of one oxygen atom. If you take an isotope of oxygen 816, what you realize in that 8 protons are present, 8 neutrons, 8 electrons, and we have to subtract mass defect. So 8 protons mass is 8 multiplied by mass of 1 proton. What you are able to realize, it is going to be a decimal number. It is never going to be a whole number. That means atomic mass is always a decimal number. Similarly, total mass of 8 neutrons is this much. Mass of 8 electrons is this much. That is a theoretical mass that we calculated from mass of proton, neutron and electron. And if you check by mass spectrophotometer, what is that? It's a machine by which you can get observed mass of an isotope. It is 15.995. What realization we are able to do? This mass is lesser or lower. That means there is a difference in the mass. The difference in the mass, right, observed mass is lesser, very small. It is 0.136 U. But that small mass is converted to energy called as which energy? Binding energy, by using Einstein's equation. E is equal to mc square, and this small mass as per this equation is responsible for 127 million electron volt of energy. Such a large amount of energy keeps protons and neutrons together inside the small size of the nucleus. That is the reason if somebody tries to destroy the nucleus of oxygen by some means, it will release large amount of energy per nucleus, this much energy. So if you have small number of even atoms, like even 10 to the about 10 atoms, that energy is quite a large, and such a large amount of energy liberated when nucleus of an oxygen is destroyed is called as nuclear energy. And you know that nuclear energy is used for employing a nuclear power station. Correct. So what do you realize from this discussion? Atomic mass of any isotope cannot be a whole number, because the mass of proton, neutron are decimal numbers. And if you ever want to calculate atomic mass, take into account all protons. What is MP? Mass of one proton multiplied by total number of protons. Me is mass of electron multiplied by total number of electrons. You know total number of electrons is, if you take oxygen as 816, you know this number is called as Z, and this number is called as A. And 8 protons are present, 8 electrons are present, 16 minus 8 neutrons are present. So Z is the number of protons, Z or Z is the number of electrons, A minus Z is the number of neutrons, Mn is mass of one neutron. Anyone remembers what is the mass of one neutron? Yeah, 1.008. And then you subtract that mass defect, which is converted to energy, you will actually get observed mass. If you take into account only this much part, that will be called as theoretical mass. But if you subtract mass defect, you will get observed atomic mass. We come to the concept of average atomic mass. To understand this, we example, day-to-day life example. You are aware chlorine is found in the nature. Actually, all the elements are found in nature. Only elements, right, which are the last part of the periodic table, they are artificially prepared. Otherwise, all the elements exist in the nature. Chlorine, which is yellow color gas, is made up of chlorine molecules. Now imagine these chlorine molecules are heated to very high temperature. When you are heated to very high temperature, what will happen? The molecules will break. So molecule will break and atoms will get separated. So what is shown here is separated atoms. Now when naturally found chlorine gas, it heated to very high temperature, we got chlorine atoms. When chlorine atoms were studied by mass spectrophotometer, we realize certain atoms have mass number of 35 and some had mass number of 37. So these chlorine atoms were not of the same type, they were of different isotopes. Major was with atomic mass number 35 and minor proportion was 37. When we studied this with mass spectrophotometer, what is that? It is a device to find out the proportion of these isotopes. We realized chlorine 35 atoms were 3 parts and chlorine 37 were in 1 part in number. That means isotopic abundance was in the ratio of 3:1. So chlorine atoms in nature exist as isotope 35, 37 with abundance of 3:1. It is natural abundance. Human beings do not participate or not responsible for such a type of abundance of elements. And for your information, all the elements of the periodic table have isotopes. That means such abundance exists for all. This data of abundance can be expressed in ratio. If you express as a ratio, it is 3:1. You can call one ratio part as M, other as N. You can have fractional abundance. If you have fractional abundance, then 3 part out of total 4 parts. So 3/4. 1 part out of 4 parts, 1/4. So fractional abundance is F1, other one is F2, and if you can note, addition of F1 and F2 is 1. Fractional abundance, right, all added together is 1. Percentage abundance. You know, 3/4 is what? 75%. Yes, and 1/4 is what? 25%. So if you want to write down the same data, you can write down 75% is to 25%. One is P1, other is P2. Where P1 and P2, if you add together, is 100. Imagine 3 isotopes would have been present. Then F1 plus F2 plus F3 would have been 1. Similarly, P1 plus P2 plus P3 would have been 100 if 3 isotopes would have been present. Imagine if 4 are present, F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus F4 would have been 1. Similarly, P1, P2, P3, P4 would have been 100. But now we are dealing with only two isotopes. So we have only two factors. For all chemical calculations, what would have been correct to take atomic mass of chlorine? Should I take 35 or should I take 37? Science says it is not scientifically correct to either take 35 or you should take 37. On the other hand, science says you take a proper average of the two isotopes taking into account their abundance. Based on these factors and argument, average atomic term was introduced in the science. Question is, when is this term average atomic mass introduced? Average atomic mass term is introduced whenever you have isotopes. The question is, which elements of the periodic table have isotopes? Answer is all elements. That means in short, all elements, you should use the word average atomic mass. Average atomic mass, therefore, is given by this formula if M and N are the ratio and A1 and A2 are their atomic masses. A1, A2 are atomic masses. F1, F2 are fractional abundance. A1, A2 are atomic masses. P1, P2 are percentage abundance. Correct. These are the three formula. Which formula should I use depends how the data is given, or we conveniently write down that data. For chlorine, right, if you ask me technically, this formula will be far better. Oh, there was an error. It should be divided by 100. It should be divided by 1 because F1 plus F2 is 1. But 1 you don't consider. So for chlorine, average atomic mass will be F1, A1 plus F2, A2. So 3/4 is abundance of 35. 1/4 is abundance of 37. If you solve 142 divided by 4, 35.5. And if you remember, in mole concept and stoichiometry, we took average atomic mass of 35.5 for calculation purpose. We have not taken 35, we have not taken 37, we took 35.5. Numerical approach of average atomic mass. In numerical, one type of a numerical is, they may ask us to calculate average atomic mass. Then we have a formula, F1 A1 plus F2 A2 divided by 1. You know 1 doesn't matters. P1 A1 plus P2 V2 P2 A2 upon 100. The most convenient of this is this formula because there is no division factor. This is one type of a numerical. Another type of a numerical is they give you all the data, but now they ask you to calculate percentage abundance. If such type of a question comes up, then right, to do second type of a numerical, remember, take one fractional abundance as x. Yes, we are aware they ask you percentage. Still, we take fraction because it is convenient. Let one fraction be x. Other fraction will be 1 minus x because you know sum of the fractional abundance is 1. This method is convenient when two isotopes are involved. Then use this formula, substitute the data, calculate the value of x, which will be decimal number or a fraction. Multiply that fraction by 100, you will get percentage. Example, find percentage abundance of lighter atom of neon 20 and neon 22. if average atomic mass is 20.4. Right, you remember the trick? Right, they are asking for lighter atom. Lighter is neon 20. Let the lighter atom be X. Then what will be the fractional abundance for other isotope? Correct, 1 minus X. Because fractional abundance together is 1. Average atomic mass is given by the formula F1 A1 plus F2 A2. First fraction is X, other fraction is 1 minus X. You open up this bracket and solve that unknown. That unknown value will be 0.8. Oh, convert this into percentage. That is 80 percentage. So percentage abundance of lighter isotope is 80. If somebody asks you for heavier isotope, it will be how much? Answer is remaining percentage, that will be 20. So another very interesting concept of average molecular mass or average molar mass. Now this topic doesn't exist in NCERT textbook, but we felt it is relevant and it can be easily understood by any student who understand average atomic mass concept. So what you are able to see here on the screen is a gaseous mixture which is made up of nitrogen and oxygen. And we are aware nitrogen molar mass is 28, oxygen is 32. Now imagine for such a mixture, if it is asked what is the molecular mass of this mixture, the question is, should we report 28 or should we report 32? Or should we report average of 28 and 32, that is 30? What should be reported? Or should we, right, this average molecular mass depend on masses or moles of nitrogen and oxygen taken in the mixture? So we have so many questions for us. First question, should I take it molecular mass is 32, or that is oxygen's molecular mass, or nitrogen, that's 28, or algebraic average of the two, that is 30, or should it depend on the masses or the moles of nitrogen and oxygen? What should be done? That is a query that we have. So, in such cases, average molecular mass concept was introduced. So, you know, whenever there is a difficulty in science, then by scientific basis, those difficulties are solved. Average molecular mass, as per science, is given by the formula mass of the mixture divided by total moles of the mixture. If you are aware, number of moles is given by the formula weight upon molecular mass. So, if you interchange the position of number of moles and molecular mass, then molecular mass is given by the formula weight upon number of moles. So, mass upon number of moles. That is what is molecular mass. So, are you able to see mass is given here and moles are given here. So, this is how average molecular mass concept will be there. So, is our query right answered? Does our molecular mass is 28 or 30 or 32? Answer is, it depends on the molecular masses of the substance, mass of the mixture, moles of the mixture. It depends on so many factors. Till we don't solve a particular question, right, we'll not have a good understanding. So we are solving a particular question. Find average molecular mass of a mixture containing 14 gram of carbon monoxide and 30 gram of ethane. We know a formula involves, what is the formula involving? Mass of the mixture and moles of the mixture. So what is the first task that we do? We find out moles of carbon monoxide. That is mass 14 upon molecular mass 28.5. Correct. 0.5. Algebraically pronounced as 0.5. Similarly, moles of ethane can be calculated by mass of ethane divided by molecular mass of methane. That is 1. So we know total moles is 1.5. So what is the mass? You have taken 14 gram of carbon monoxide, 30 grams of ethane. Total moles are 1.5. And if you calculate, it is 29.33. Now, as a science student, if you do an observation, you'll realize that molecular mass is between the two values 28 and 30, and is closer to 30 because its contribution is more. So that means average molecular mass is closer to that gas whose contribution, or to that substance whose contribution in moles is more. Yes. So we have realized average molecular mass lies between molecular masses of given substances. Given substance have molecular mass of 28 and 30, and it is 29.33, closer to 30 because its moles are more in number. Correct. Then more about formula of average molecular mass. If there are two substances A and B, then average molecular mass will be mass of A, mass of B, that's total mass of the mixture, divided by total moles of the mixture. Now, can I write down? We know number of moles is mass upon molecular mass. So, how to write down mass? Yes, moles multiplied by molecular mass. Moles multiplied by molecular mass. So, can we write down moles multiplied by molecular mass for mass A and moles multiplied by molecular mass for mass B? Now, what we do? We take each term and we divide. We take each term and we divide. Oh, that's moles of A upon total moles multiplied by molecular mass. Moles of B divided by total moles multiplied by molecular mass. Now, science says that moles of a substance divided by total moles can be called as mole fraction. Mole fraction is moles of substance divided by total moles. Similarly, mole fraction of B will be moles of B divided by total moles. So, we have got another formula of average molecular mass. So, and then you should know moles of mole fraction of A, mole fraction of B is moles of A divided by total moles, moles of B divided by total moles. If you find it out, you will find sum of mole fraction is always 1. So, we realize there are two formula for average molecular mass. Total mass of the mixture divided by total moles, or average, write this, another formula is mole fraction into molecular mass of A, mole fraction into molecular mass of B, where XA plus XB is 1. So, suggested is when you do numericals of average molecular mass, then for numericals this will be far better formula, because we can take XA as X and XB can be taken as 1 minus X. Such type of formula can be used. So write this one more numerical. Find average molecular mass of a mixture of 44% carbon dioxide, 20% Na, and 36% of steam. Now they have given you percentage but no information. Then you can consider this is by mass. So if it is by mass, then let mass of carbon dioxide be 44. Let mass of NO be 20. Let mass of water be 36. Right, if you check, total mass of all components should be 100. Moles of carbon dioxide will be mass upon molecular mass 1. Moles of NO will be mass of NO divided by molecular mass 0.66. Similarly, moles of water will be moles or mass of water upon molecular mass 2. What you are able to realize, water contributes more. So our final average molecular mass should be slightly closer to 18 and away from 44. But still we can check. Average molecular mass is mass of carbon dioxide, mass of NO, mass of steam divided by total moles. If you add 27.32. Answer lies between the two extreme value. Water, which is one of the component with molecular mass 18, and carbon dioxide with molecular mass 44. Answer should lie between the two values. This is how average molecular mass can be calculated. Now, for your general knowledge, remember, average molecular mass of air is taken as 28.8. Oh, that's very closer to that of nitrogen. Why? Because major proportion of nitrogen is present in air, or air major component is nitrogen. Right? If you want to do a calculation of average molecular mass of air, remember in geography, right, we learned nitrogen is 79%, but we are taking as 80% for ease of calculation. And we are taking oxygen as 20%. And we are not considering carbon dioxide present in the air, argon present in the air, water vapor or humidity present in the air. Now percentage of nitrogen is 80%, that is 80 upon 100, 0.8. This can be called as volume fraction, 0.8. Now, for calculation purpose, we'll consider volume fraction as mole fraction only. Okay, like this. In later chapters, we have a formula PV is equal to nRT. On that grounds, we can say V is directly proportional to N number of moles. So, volume fraction can be considered as mole fraction for convenience of calculation. Similarly, percentage volume by volume of oxygen is 20%. That is 0.2. So, can I say volume fraction is 0.2 or popularly 0.2, and mole fraction is 0.2. Mole fraction is 0.2. Then average molecular mass of air can be taken as mole fraction of nitrogen multiplied by molar mass of nitrogen, mole fraction of oxygen multiplied by molar mass of oxygen. That is mole fraction of nitrogen 0.8. 0.8. So 0.8 multiplied by 28, mole fraction of oxygen 0.2 multiplied by 32. and if you calculate, it will come out to be 28.8. This is how you can calculate average molecular mass of air. Hope you have understood it well, the concept of